We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Friday. I want to say thanks to Dan's and Lisa for being on the show yesterday. That was their first appearance. Had a good time, had a good conversation, and we'll have much the same today because we have somebody you do know who's been on the program before, Jace from Texas.
Hola.
He's coming out of the state of the Gestapo down there. We've been hearing some fucked up shit about Texas.
Mike. Thanks again for having me. Yeah, it's nice though that now it's getting kind of national attention.
Yeah,
Um, I yeah, the stuff going on down here is just another day in Clusterbuckville,
yeah,
and I, I'm hoping that the voters are pissed enough to show up and vote. People like, I don't think Paxton's up for re-election, but I don't think him or Dan Patrick are, but I know Ted Cruz is, and I know that a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on Colin Allred. Um, I personally think he will win against Ted Cruz. I'm more to that, but I think I emailed you and told you that I was, or maybe I said it last time on the show. I was a little upset with him that he wasn't really embracing Kamala.
yeah.
He's trying to go for that middle of the road voter, and he's running the almost the direct opposite. I know what Beto was doing back in was it 18?
Yeah,
Beto went full progressive,
yeah,
and Ted Cruz actually he tried to give Beto a compliment by, of course, well, Beto almost won, and Beto was who he was, but Colin, he's hiding who he is, and I don't think that's true. I think this is who Colin is, and I think that he's running. And it's funny, Beto didn't go for that middle of the road moderate voter that Colin is. So the direct opposite is like criticism now, which just proves. I think Lisa last night said, "You're damned if you do. You're damned if you do."
yeah,
It's like the Republicans, wanting Joe Biden now. Okay, motherfuckers, you got him out. Now what?
yeah.
And they still don't know what they're doing. But I think Colin will win, and I was very pleased that he actually won. That actually he actually was at the DNC, because I was like, oh shit, he's going to actually speak. Because I've seen TikTokers on the left side actually attack him,
Yeah.
which is not. This is not the time to do that.
No.
But a lot of people were actually accusing him of being another Mansion out of West
Oh.
Virginia, that he would actually switch and go with the Republicans and hose shit up. I don't think that. I don't know, but he's been around long enough. Haven't seen any evidence of that. But you had a lot of. I guess people were more pissed about him not being the DNC, but he's the DNC, and the girl that introduced him. She's a creator here on TikTok. I forget her name, but she called Texas a swing state. Well, the
That's a little.
progressives were like, well, it's not a swing state, and it fucking irritates me, is because you look at the Republicans, and this motherfucker's got 34 indictments against him, and they're fucking going down with the ship.
Yeah,
Oh no, we can't do that because blah blah blah. It's like, this ain't the time. It's kind of like, don't shoot people, and or don't shoot yourself in the foot with your own party.
yeah.
You know, Colin, I think he will win, but I don't think it'll be anything. I don't think it'll be because he's reaching out to another voter. The middle. But I think that's going to help. But I think people don't like Ted Cruz. He may be more hated than Trump.
Right.
But he won re-election against Beto, which was heartbreaking. But he may win because of Kamala. She may push him over
Right.
the line. I think she's way more popular in Texas than I think he gives her credit for, but he's playing it safe to the vest, which is his deal. I
Well,
think progressives will vote for him.
the thing about Colin Allred, if he's trying to straddle the fence based on what happened to Beto back in 2018, I think he's missing something that a lot of people are missing. We were talking about this before. Uh, People were saying, well, in 2018, this didn't work, so I should try this. Well, let me tell you something. 2018, entirely different world than we are in 2024. The culture is different. In 2019, Kamala got kicked to the curb in the primaries early because it was a different climate, a different
Yeah.
attitude about a prosecutor, a tough black woman. Now in 2024, she's the hottest presidential candidate in history. So to try to compare what happened in the past and try to make it work for now, I think that's a mistake.
Yeah, because I mean, even from 2018 to 2020, it's changed.
Yeah.
Because I remember in the Texas primary back then, Biden was up there, Super Tuesday, I guess it was, in 2020, and I don't know if Kamala was still in it when that was happening. I don't know, but I voted for Bloomberg
Mm-hmm.
because I thought Biden was too old. But watching Biden campaign, and Biden won me over. I mean, just with the speech and everything he did. So Republicans like to accuse Democrats of changing their mind, like they did, Kamala with, the fracking, and it's not okay for her to change her mind from like 4 years ago, but fucking Trump can change his mind
In the middle of a
in the
sentence.
middle of a freaking speech.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, he was, he's the one that well, I've never been for that 6 week, and then he said he was sporty. I mean, he changes his mind more than he does his diapers.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
come on. And it's the hypocrisy. But to get back to Colin, I think she will help him win. I think progressives are going to vote for her. I think progressives are going to vote for him. Despite that, I think it may be closer. It may be closer because I don't think Colin they get those progressives or those middle of the road voters. I think that's a lost cause, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I think Beto had the right idea. I think that a lot of those people that weren't of age in 2018 are of age now, and a lot of those people that voted in 2018 are dead now, COVID.
Right.
So I think he'll win despite her because Ted Cruz is so hated, and I'm not too sure. People are pretty tired of the school voucher thing. Even Republicans don't want that, so they may vote it blue to put a couple more blue. I must admit I'm not really. I know my local races, but I don't really know my state ones like I should. I mean, I will. I mean, what I'm not voting for, I don't really pay attention to. I mean,
Right.
probably at least I admit it. But no, to talk about Colin Allred too. I haven't seen any. I've seen he is all over talking about the border, and he portrays himself as a mainstream, a Democrat, a moderate Democrat that works with both sides. He voted with the Republicans to condemn Biden on the border before the whole thing, the bill, earlier. I didn't like that. I didn't think that was right. I thought, you are a Democrat, you stand by your president. And but that I didn't like that either. And I told you that way back that I wasn't too sure about him, and before he won the primary.
Right.
But I'm going to watch Colin when he does win, because I don't want him to be. We don't need another mansion. I
No.
guess it really well in the Senate, yeah, especially the Senate. We can't have another mansion or cinema in there. And I optimistic he doesn't, but that whole thing is like, you win, you still got to watch the Democrats when they go over there, because Colin got, actually, one more thing about him, he got endorsed by the Chamber of Commerce evidently when he was running from the House. Well, the Chamber of Commerce in their infinite wisdom endorsed Ted Cruz, so that tells you
Wow.
how about the big business. So
Well,
yeah, and
there's
Tony
a
Gonzalez, sorry about the house down here.
yeah.
He said the house is going to flip, which is like, thank you, Captain Obvious. I mean, nobody
Uh,
wants to put a bet on the Senate, but people want to bet on the House. I think we got that, and I'm pretty sure he's right.
yeah, I think that's going to be a big win. The House is going to be 30 seats or something like that. Just a rough guess. But, if you want to understand how the culture has changed, we got a perfect example of that yesterday when Liz Cheney came out and endorsed Kamala Harris. Now, I know there's a lot of Democrats that like Liz Cheney because she stood up to Donald Trump. She was on the January 6th committee. She showed some integrity, unlike most Republicans. But the fact of the matter is she is ultra conservative. She is a Republican. She's against abortion. For a time, she was against LGBTQ until her sister came out as such. And so she's not a friend of the Democrats. And to be honest with you, she doesn't believe in most of the policies that Kamala believes in. But the point of it is she's at a point as a conservative Republican saying, okay, I'm going to vote against my best interest in terms of my policies just to save this fucking country. That's what it's going to take. Keep Donald Trump out, regardless of what's next to his name. Vote for a Democrat so we can kind of get things back to relative normalness. If Liz Cheney is going to do that because she's so fearful of Donald Trump, if Liz Cheney's doing that, you can bet there's a lot of Republicans in this country with the same mindset. And now that Liz Cheney did it, they're going to go, okay, I was on the right track. This is going to get a lot of Republicans who can't stomach Donald Trump, but don't really like the idea of voting for a Democrat, finally realizing this might be our only choice at this point.
You know, Mike, I listen to you every day, and something just occurred to me. I'm probably the closest. It seems like everybody you have on is either independent or Democrat.
Yeah.
I'm probably the one, ex-Republican, probably closest thing to, I was never MAGA. I left the party before 2016.
Yeah.
When I saw Trump coming, I ran. But I'm seeing something, and I do keep, I listen to Morning Joe. I like people like Joe Scarborough, but also listen to somebody like Keith Overman.
Yeah.
Keith Overman, I remember when I was in my Republican days thinking that guy is a fucking nut.
Yeah.
But you know what? I look back and he was right. He was right about a lot of shit. I mean, he likes to rag on Bill O'Reilly for getting fired, but I think he's actually been fired more than Bill O'Reilly.
Probably, but not for the same.
Yeah, but not for that. Yeah. Yeah, I knew, and I don't really, and sometimes I don't trust his judgment because he not only dated Laura Ingraham, he also dated Katie Tur at one time. I was like, does this guy just like punishment? And to get back to it, he does that worst persons in the world, which I think is hilarious. Well, he had a thing on yesterday or today was talking about, Joe Scarborough, how Joe Scarborough, and Mika's always been against Trump. Yeah. She's a Democrat, but he's come out against Trump. And he is saying, and I'm seeing something with the Republicans now, is that what they're saying is what Democrats have been saying for a while. And I said that too. Trump is not a conservative.
No, he never was.
I'm just waiting for the meme to come out from Truth Social that calls Elizabeth Cheney a rhino.
Yeah.
When a Cheney endorses your Democratic opponent, you may be the rhino.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
exactly.
So I see Joe, going against it, and Keith Owen was going after Joe. It's like, well, you had Trump on there. You were buddies with Trump. I mean, and you helped normalize Trump. And I believe that to a point, but I know there's a part to where, there's this thing about called, forgiveness, like if you're MAGA or whatever. But we also got to realize the people that realized, and I'm going to defend them, the people that are coming out now, saying, I mean, I don't know why, 2020 and January 6th weren't enough.
Yeah.
But they're saying he's not a conservative. Duh. You have two sides of the Republican Party. You have the people like Joe Scarborough, like Liz Cheney, that are, Liz Cheney didn't even endorse Biden.
Yeah.
She probably wrote in Ronald Reagan like a lot of them do, which is stupid. And I haven't heard Pence say that he's not endorsing Kamala.
Well, and Liz Cheney, by the way, she voted with Donald Trump most of the time while he was president, and she voted against impeaching him. Yep. So she has some issues. I appreciate her integrity. Don't like her politics. I don't care how nice she is or what she did to help the Democrats. She didn't do it to help the Democrats. She did it to try to help her, try to save her party, and try to avoid this country being overthrown by a dipshit.
Yeah, there's going to be a civil war in the Republican Party more so than they claim. There's, they say if Trump loses, there's going to be a civil war. Hell, they're fighting against themselves
Right.
because you have on one side the Republican Party, the Joe Scarboroughs, and Liz Cheney's, and probably Papa Cheney. He's probably going. He don't like Trump either, but I don't know if he likes anybody. He reminds me of that guy that was on It's a Wonderful Life, Mr. Potter. That's who Dick Cheney always remind me of.
Yeah.
In the wheelchair guy,
Yeah.
but you have that side, and then you have the ones that call Trump out for his stupidity, his lawlessness, like Bolton and who's the guy that was the attorney general?
Barr?
You have Barr. You have them just talking about how much it threatens the democracy and all this shit. Who are you going to vote for? Trump. I mean, it's like, and like Bolton today said, well, we've been through worse, and it's like,
No, we haven't.
dude, I mean, it's and that, and like, look at what happened to Joe Rogan. You speak out against it, and the cult turns against you.
Right.
So they're going to be turning against you. And there was some guy, I don't know, he's some white nationalist, I guess, that he was calling Trump out. He's definitely Republican side. He's going, why would Trump admit he's lost the election?
Yeah.
Well, and
I don't even know that Donald Trump knew he was admitting to it, just like he didn't realize he was admitting to election interference when he said, I had a right to do it. In his mind, that's what wasn't going on. And then he's made a mention of losing the race by a whisker. And I don't think he saw it as he just speaks. He just opens his mouth.
And he gets away with it because the media doesn't they don't press him on it.
You know what? I'm hearing more media people say that. Why isn't the media doing this? This is something you and I and everybody else has been talking about for 4 fucking years, if not further. And now they're going, yeah, maybe the media should do something. Really, motherfuckers? I thought you were a journalist. I thought you knew what you were doing. You should have done that in 2015 and we wouldn't have been in this mess.
Well, the thing about it is he did something. He was asked today, I think, about his child care.
Yeah, I heard that.
And the Midas Touch they're one of the ones out there doing it. But I actually saw, kind of CNN kind of talking about it. I mean, that if that was Biden, corporate media would have been all over that shit.
Right.
And it's funny how the age issue isn't an issue anymore since Biden dropped out.
And that's all on the media.
It's only a couple years older. It's ridiculous. They want, like you said, a close dog race. I don't say dog fight because I can't imagine, but they want a close race.
They do.
And we're getting closer to it now. And I think your guest last night mentioned something how the media kind of slips up. Like I think the media is starting to see it too, because you have most of the polls, even some of the Republicans, that are saying that she's ahead, she's going to win.
Right.
But I think it's Nate Silver, I think, is the one. And he's he's like 15 points ahead of her. There is no fucking way. He's never gotten over 50%. Nate
Silver is a guy that had that 538, and it was very accurate back in the day. But people have to understand that that company that he had when he was very accurate, he sold out. He sold it out to somebody else, and now he's working with Republicans. So you might have trusted him back then. He's full of shit now. He's just like every other pollster, and he makes my point. We don't know who's taking the polls and what their agenda is. And if their agenda is to make Donald Trump look good and make people believe he's winning, that's what we're going to get. So how can you trust any poll at that point? There's other parts of this too you've got to consider. The polls are close, but Kamala is fundraising 3 to 4 times more than Donald Trump. Okay. The polls are close, but there are unprecedented amounts of new registrations from people who didn't vote before, who are voting Democrat. Do they show up?
They're not signing up for Trump. They're not signing up to vote for Trump.
And they don't show up in the polls either. This is why, when you look at everything, if you just look at the facts, I don't know how anybody can say that this election is going to be close.
Yeah.
I know people think I'm guy half glass full and I'm positive and stuff like that, but the facts, This fucker's a convicted felon. He's been found liable of sexually abusing women. He stole classified documents. He's made a fool of himself every time he stands on stage. He's exposing himself for being the delusional, diminished motherfucker he is. And everybody,
Yeah.
and Kamala may be the most popular presidential candidate in history as far as the momentum and the excitement behind her. You take those facts. How is that a close race? It doesn't make sense.
I'm about to say he did 538. They're actually, his old poll was actually putting her ahead, so they're more accurate than the guy who started it.
Right.
And a couple more things. I think it's the I think a lot of the new registrations are younger voters.
Absolutely.
And a lot of them are first time voters, and a lot of them she's resonating with the people who have less income. That's a dart in the heart right there, because that was Trump's thing, the people that felt disenfranchised after Obama. And speaking of those young voters, that's a big reason why our illustrious Attorney General, to go back to Ted Cruz, go back to Ken Paxton, evidently Bexar County and Harris County are two of the biggest blue. I'm in Bexar County, which is primary Democrat. They actually voted more for Biden than they did Trump.
Right.
And Harris County is around Houston. I don't know, Houston, or it's somewhere. It's a big blue area as well. Well, that's the one that Paxton's targeting, because evidently they wanted to send out they wanted to send out like voter registrations, I guess, to the non-registered voters. Well, Paxton had a problem with that, because you're wasting government funds. It's like, well, that's a government thing, but evidently there's some Texas law, probably passed by Republicans, that you can't do that. But there had a few lawyers up there, and I think they called Paxton's bluff, and they said, sue us. Well, guess what? He did. He's suing Bexar County now, because he doesn't, they see what's coming. And I have never, even when I was voted Republican, have never been able to understand Republicans having a problem with early voters, or like people registering to vote. They're not going to all register. They're not going to all register for Democrats.
They wouldn't have a problem with it, because prior to 2020, most Republicans were the ones that did the early voting. It wasn't Democrats. So they loved it then. And then I don't even know if it's something that affects them that much. I just think they want something to bitch about, to suggest there's something funny with the election.
Well, it's like with the border. One of Paxton's thing was saying, the illegal migrants, are going to steal the vote. And I saw this one lady's response is like, she deals with migrants all the time. They're not looking to vote, looking to have some shelter and have a goddamn meal, and to like get away from getting killed in their country. That's what they're in their family. They're not trying to register to vote.
An illegal immigrant, the last thing they want to fucking do is create a paper trail. They want to stay under the radar. They don't want to be high profile. They want to stay in the country. Paxton, I don't know a lot about what's going down in Texas, but I've read some things and I've heard some things about Ken Paxton. He sounds like the equivalent to the head of the Gestapo in Germany. He's sending people into people's houses for no fucking reason at all. I mean, this guy apparently has got real confident after getting through his legal problems, getting reelected, no matter how big a piece of shit he is. And now he's just kind of running roughshod. He's going amok here. I don't know if there's any way to stop him. Your governor certainly isn't going to do it.
Well, I mentioned that to you. I mentioned that way back after he beat him after Abbott got reelected after Uvalde, and after freezing people, grandma freezing to death with the power grid.
Yeah.
And Paxton beating that rap. I said that they're going to be more emboldened, and they do, because nothing has stood up to stop them. I mean, it's almost, it's Trumpism all over. It's been how many years with, what happened after, January 6th? It's like he should be hiding his head and being shamed, but people don't have shame anymore. They're just
not Republicans.
Well, not. I mean, I don't want to sound like an old man, but a lot of it's society. Did you hear about all that stuff going on with Chase Bank? I mean, my
Yeah.
God. I mean, I look at that, and then I look at what they do with your all your information, and you're just giving it back to the bank. They have it, and I go, well, goddamn, maybe the polls are, 71 million voted for him in 2020. I know it ain't going to be the same,
No.
but I mean, there's a whole bunch of stupid, and it's like Paxton just feels emboldened now, and I knew this was coming until until he is stopped. And heads up to the Bexar County Democrats for doing it. They pulled like a Lincoln Project on Trump. I'll sue. Go ahead, sue. I mean, it does kind of suck because it does involve the election and stuff. But Republicans just do a war on voting. They try to get rid of. Ohio's done it too, where they're trying to get rid of, like, in places where you can vote. They want to get rid of drop boxes, and it's like I've never understood that. It's like you should have policies enough to stand on your own, but they're the party of Trump, and they know if Democrats, especially in Texas, I can't speak for other states, but if Democrats show up, this state would be blue,
Yeah.
not purple, not even close to red. It would be blue, but there's so much people don't care, and
Yeah.
with the abortion thing, with Uvalde, with like the power grid. I mean, I don't know what more than that. I mean, I'm hoping it does it. And I'm hoping that, hate to say this, but I hope Kamala saves Texas,
Yeah.
because I think she will bring over, and she's actually doing something too. She's giving more to people like Colin. I don't know if it's him personally, but she's doing something Trump would never do. And
Right.
that's play it forward. Give, these people, I mean, Republicans are they're freaking out now. I mean, I don't know what took them so long. I mean, Lindsey Graham proposed it. We choose Trump. It will destroy us.
And we've all been saying for a long time that the Republicans are in trouble, and now 2 months before the election, they're going, "Hey, fuck, we're in trouble." I mean, money is a huge deal. Democrats have a lot more money. Uh, as you say, Kamala Harris is sending $25 million to the down ballot races, which is a good thing and a good idea. Donald Trump is not only not sending $25 million to the down ballots or the down ballot elections. He's fucking siphoning money out of the RNC that would have gone to the down ballot. So he's taking money away from the down ballots, and that may be a great gift to the Democrats. Whether it be Ted Cruz or somebody else in one of the other states, if they're going to be choked off of money, it's going to be hard for them to win.
Yeah. The thing about Ted Cruz, though, is that Republicans, I mean, they got all that oil money down here, and
Yeah.
and Republicans, I mean, it's going to have to be the voters that turn out that beat the big money. It's going to have to be. I mean, in Kamala's situation, she is the big money.
Yeah.
She don't. But down here, I, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm optimistic about Colin, but it's just, I mean, down here, and it's just the same old story. The borders deal, and it's this stuff that they talk about, like they talk about these liberal policies and stuff, and it's like, well, Kamala said it is like, pay attention who represents you or something like that. Not really in
Right.
that way,
Pay
and
attention who they stand up for. Yeah.
people ask me that, people that I work with, and people that people ask me that. Well, why are you a Democrat? Especially in Texas, is like, weren't you a Republican at one time? And it's like, well, I was under this for many years, and I thought it would make me happy. I wanted to be rich. I didn't care. And hey, I still don't mind being rich, but
Yeah.
it's not, as I get older, it's not, happiness is more important.
Yeah.
So it's like, Ted Cruz doesn't represent me. He represents, I almost said Enron. Well, that's a name for blast from the
Yeah.
past. He represents, big money, big oil. He represents Donald Trump, billionaires. You know what I mean? Collins, Colin ain't perfect. He ain't my choice because I think he's a little to the far right, or to the right, like we talked about.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to vote for him. I'm not going to, start a TikTok campaign against him. I want to get through this election, and I don't think it's going to be close. And it doesn't really bother me about all these lawyers that are on retainer.
Yeah.
because I don't think it's going to be close. And I think it's going to be such a bad beating that even MAGA is going to be like, oh shit. Like, because Old Soul said that about that article she read in The Guardian about they were leaving the Trump rally. Shit, he scares me. Well,
Yeah.
goddamn, he scared me for how many years now? Welcome to the party, pal.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's always an arc with somebody like Donald Trump. They start out strong, they get popular because they're the noisiest one in the room, they're the most entertaining. But he's jumped the shark now. He's no longer the novelty, the exciting one that people want to get behind him. The tide has turned, the paradigm has shifted, and now it's almost everybody is kind of pounding on Donald Trump, and we're even getting Republicans. And one of the main reasons for that is because Kamala and Tim Walz have become the media darlings. That's where the excitement is. That's where the attention is, and that's all the media cares about. So um, the tide has turned. Donald Trump is on the losing side, and it's only going to get worse between now and November. So he's going to continue to slide. More people are going to walk away from him. And I can't wait till after the election and he realizes I didn't win. And now I got to face 3 fucking trials because he's got nothing to protect him. No money, no position, no support, because the Republicans ain't going to be supporting him after he gets his ass kicked in 2024 here. They're going to walk away from him. If they don't, I've lost all hope for any intelligence in the Republican side because they should have walked away a long time ago.
I think too. I think something's going to happen because I've seen this kind of voter, and this is something the media is not talking about, and I see it happening. He got what? How many votes did he get? Like 71 million or 76 million or something like that. And I mean, he
71.
got, yeah,
Oh,
71
74.
million.
74. Joe got 81.
Okay. Yeah. So Joe Biden got more. Hillary got more. Popular vote don't count. But I think, and I've seen this in evidence, and I haven't heard anybody talk about this. You may have said something, I may have missed it, but you're going to have that Trump voter that can't vote for Nikki Haley, that can't vote for Kamala.
Right.
They're going to stay home.
Yeah, and that's fine if they don't vote.
Yeah, they don't have to vote for Kamala. They just need to stay home. What I'm interested to see is how, and when she wins, and she will win bigly, as he would say, I want to see the comparison between 2020, what Trump got in 2024, because I think it's going to be a substantial. Then again, like what did you say, 20 million boomers died. So, with COVID and, all this crap that went on. I mean, and we both know at our age, 10 years and 4 years, that's a long time.
Yeah.
As you get past 50 and stuff, you start thinking, yeah, 4 years is a long time.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't seem like a long time. It goes by as fast, but that's a long time in the life of people. But I don't think people are talking about that because you have so many disenfranchised people that voted for Haley. They might necessarily vote for Kamala, even though that group is supporting them. But you may have a lot of people that stay home. And what's that going to affect? The down ballots.
Right.
And
exactly.
That's what the Republicans have got to be shitting about. And that's probably the polls they're seeing that they're not telling us about.
Yeah, that's why I think in November on this election, it is going to be earth-shattering. Not in terms of the numbers that Donald Trump's beaten by. I mean, here's the thing: you got to understand. He had 74 million voters in 2020. You got to understand. At least half of those people voted for him because he was the Republican. They were going to vote Republican. Yeah. Dad voted Republican. Grandpa voted Republican. Yep. That's why. But we've got. And we don't need a lot of them to do it, but we've got a lot of those 74 million that are going, yeah, I'm not feeling it so much. I'm not liking it so much. And you got a lot of independents going, I can't stomach Donald Trump. He doesn't have a unified party. He doesn't have a solid base in independence. We've got young people coming into the election in 2024, and most of them won't vote for him. That's why I'm saying it. And I honestly think, see what you think about this. I think that a decisive win is absolutely important, not only to stop all the bullshit afterwards and saying it was a hoax, but this country needs that to feel like we're moving on in the right direction. we need it to be a decisive win. I really believe that. I mean, I'll take a close win too, but I think that decisive win is important to the next several years of this country, and I think we're in a position to get it.
Yeah, I think so too. And I also want to say, yeah, Republicans don't show up, but Democrats have to show up.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to be the problem because I don't know about you, Mike. I'm not going to donate to a candidate and not go vote for them. And
No.
you have all that money coming in, and I think people are pretty pissed off. I mean, everybody, I think the Republicans have single-handedly moved this country more to the left. Hell, look at me.
They
I
did.
call people libtard, and back then I was kidding, of course.
Yeah.
Didn't want to piss anybody off for listening, but that it was a joke and everything, and it was kind of fun, and that's back when you could say that, oh, you're a Democrat, oh, you're a Republican, but Trump's even taken that away.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even. I mean, he had to sit there. Brittany Mahomes got out there and tweeted something about her supporting MAGA. Well, she could do what she wants to do, And Trump got up there, and I guarantee you, he probably knows who Taylor Swift is, but he had no fucking idea who Brittany Mahomes was.
No.
Oh, I want to thank her. He does that shit, and they talk about all that stuff. And I saw a meme the other day about, Trump, doing the thumbs up at the Arlington Cemetery, which
Right.
I think is going to hurt him too. But Colin Kaepernick and those athletes taking a stand because a young man got killed by excessive police force is anti-American.
Right.
I mean, it's like that crowd, and that's what I tell them. It's like, you're okay with, Colin Kaepernick losing his job and, not going to watch football anymore. I guarantee you, although MAGA people say they love football, they still love football.
Yeah.
But it's just, I mean, Trump inserts himself into anything. He goes to these sporting events. He wants Joe Rogan to get booed because Joe Rogan had a thought of his own and didn't follow the cult. I mean, people are tired of this shit. And, hell, man. And, Democrats are always, accused of voting 3 or 4 times. Hell, as long as George Soros keeps those checks coming, Mike, hey, man, I'll be out there doing it.
Yeah, I get people all the time saying, "Oh, you're getting paid by the DNC," and other people that do the creators on the Democratic side get that. It's just ironic now that we hear about these indictments with these Republican or Trumplafuck creators who got $10 million from Russia, and they're saying,
they're
well,
acting like the victims.
they're
They're
acting
the
like the
victims.
victims. They're the victims. They say, well, we took the money, but we didn't change what we did. They didn't tell us what to do. Well, that says how fucked up you were in the first place. They were willing to just pay you to continue to do what you did. They didn't pay you to say the things you did. They wanted to keep you alive and help you grow so that noise got louder. But I got to tell you, if I'm getting $10 million from somebody for something, I'm going to know why, and I'm going to know who it's from. They knew why, and they knew it's from, and they were willing to sacrifice this country just to make $10 million. Now these motherfuckers are indicted, and they're going to really have to deal with things. They're going to try to play the same games Donald Trump did, but they got no power. They got no power. Yeah. They're going to fucking jail because they clearly did.
It's not working for Trump anymore.
No, I mean, it's not.
You had a TikTok on. I think you did it later, like not too long ago. On Thursday, you said something about like those capital gains that she wants to tax those or whatever.
Yeah, I did that yesterday.
You got Joe Sixpack, complaining about that. I made a comment saying, "Well, hell, dude, George Soros sends me money. She can tax me all she wants, man. As long as the check clears, And it's ridiculous because they pitted us against each other. Well, and it's just these people are just what they're doing to these MAGA and these Republican voters that aren't smart enough to know. The rich people supporting Trump, I get that. They're going to get their tax breaks. Yeah. But if you're Joe Sixpack and you're worried about some guy making $100 million or more, I pay my taxes. I don't make anywhere near that. Then Amazon and, all those people should pay too. It's ridiculous if corporations don't pay their taxes.
Well, since you brought it up and since I did a TikTok about it, I'll just take a minute here and explain what we were talking about in that TikTok. Kamala Harris said that she would tax unrealized capital gains. And of course, the Republicans pissed their pants and said, oh my God, she's going to raise taxes. And they started talking about it. And they said, do you understand what she means? If you buy a house for $100,000 and it appreciates to $200,000, then you got to pay taxes on that $100,000 gain, even if you haven't sold your house. So you're going to have to go into your pockets for an unrealized capitalized gain. And I said, well, that's kind of true, but there's one caveat that you didn't mention. And the fact of the matter is that only applies to people with a net worth of $100 million or more. Now, I fall just short of that, so I don't have to worry about it. Fact is, most of the country, 99% of the country, falls short of that. And then the other question is, why is she saying that? The reason she's saying that is because there's a loophole. And if you're wealthy and have a big company or investments or whatever, you never have to pay personal income tax. And the way it works is this: the money all goes to the company or the investments and stuff. And then theoretically, if you were you or me, we'd take an income to live off of, right? We'd get an income where we'd have to pay taxes. Well, their loophole is this: they take loans. They loan it from their company. They loan it from their investments. And there is no income tax on loans. So they find a little loophole there. And that's what they do. They never pay the loans back, of course, but they make loans and then they can say, I don't have to pay taxes on a loan. I just have a lot of debt. And so this was a way for Kamala and the Democrats to close that loophole. And I don't know who would be against that. The 1% of these people not only paying their fair share income taxes, personal income taxes, just paying any income taxes would make a fucking difference. So that's what it is. And if you folks, somebody comes up to you and says unrealized capital gains, say, shut the fuck up. You either can't read or you're lying or both, because it has nothing to do with you and me.
Yeah, always keep them scared. Always.
Yeah.
That I remember Trump saying something about, well, if she wins, there's going to be a market crash like 29. I'm old enough to remember when he said that in 2020 about Joe Biden.
Exactly. And now
it's
we're
like,
hitting records.
I think Mark Cuban said something about that. If that happened, that would crash the market. But goddamn, Mike, I don't know about you, but the market crashes every other day now.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then the next day it goes back up.
The market crashes are all relative.
Yes.
It's funny when I read what the Dow Jones is at. We're between 40 and 41,000. Important to remember, when Donald Trump left office, was at 29 to 30,000 in a period of 4 years. That's how much it's grown. But I remember being a young man working at a radio station while I was in high school, and I had to do the stock market report. And you'd read the Dow Jones and all S&P or whatever was available then. But back then, in 76, 77, you know what the Dow Jones was at?
5.
Under 1,000.
Really?
It was always 995, 999. Maybe it'd get up to 1,000, but that's where it was. So since in those, 45 years or so, 46 years, it's raised from like 1,000 to 41,000. It's crazy. It's growing. It's been growing fast. And what that means is people on Wall Street are making a shitload of money and we're all making less money. So that needs to be looked at too. The idea the stock market's going to crash. Yeah, that's fucking ridiculous. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, there are people coming out from the economic side, from Wall Street, saying, yeah, if
Goldman
Donald Trump
Sachs.
wins, we're
Yeah.
fucked. If Kamala wins, we are in for a big boon in economically in this country. They're saying the quiet thing out loud for them. They weren't saying that before, but they're saying it now.
It's funny. It's okay if Joe Sixpack, pays his, taxes, but you got to give tax to the millionaire, because they always say that. And I was always told this too. The trickle down stuff. I mean, it obviously hasn't worked.
No.
And it's just like, they'll rate. It's like, well, if you do that, or look at the grocery business. You know what I mean? They said that, well, if you raise minimum wage, prices will go up. How long has it been since we raised minimum wage? Prices still fucking go up.
It's been.
They're going to go up all they want to. 2007, something like that.
2008, 9, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but if we do that, prices are going to go up. Well, they go up fucking without raising it up. You know what I mean? I mean,
And
it's just ridiculous because corporations they're gonna be fine.
yeah.
A family or a woman who her husband left her with two kids, they're not gonna be fine. And
You know,
God forbid you try to sit there and help the middle class build it from the bottom up out. How did Joe say the bottom up and then out? I mean, it's like God forbid we all get a piece of the pie and not just Elon Musk that gets to keep it all.
what they will always say is, well, if we don't send them the money, they'll just leave the country. Bye. See you fucking
Mhm.
later. Because you know what's going to happen? They're going to lose money by doing that. They
They'll
won't
come back.
leave. But if they do leave, somebody else will come in and take up the
Yes.
space they left and comply with what needs to be done and figure out a way to make a profit because they will make a profit whether they're paying somebody $7 an hour or $20 an hour. They're making such big profits now. Unfortunately, there's a cost to doing business. You've been able to game this situation so you don't have to pay shit. Well, your time is up. You can't get workers to do the job you need if you pay them shit. And if you don't have workers, you don't have a business. So you might as well just close the fucker up.
I think businesses also too, they kind of count on technology. Because I'll be honest with you, the years I've been working, I mean, technology does a lot of shit I used to do.
Yeah.
So I think, I remember reading an article about Trump. I think when he actually, during his first session, that, he talking about going, to the second one, saying this is back in, I think, it's like, well, if Trump gets reelected, truck driving will be a thing of the past because it'll be all AI. What happened with that? These things kill people. We're not there yet. It's like electric vehicles. They like to bitch about. We just don't have the technology.
No.
So I think a lot of these corporations have taken the consumer, for granted. They did that stuff with, I won't eat at McDonald's if you pay me. I've never liked McDonald's really. It's
No.
just not my thing. But prices have always gone up, and I've always, I hear especially my Republican friends always bitch about, oh, everything's so high, and I
Yeah.
know what they're doing. And I'm going, oh yeah, back in, well, gas was only 88 cents back in, the early 80s. People bitched about it being high back then too.
Yeah.
I mean, it always goes up. The only thing that hasn't followed is the paycheck. I mean, I read something today about how Texas is like, there's such a shortage for teachers. Wonder why.
Yeah.
They're such a short, but they're training these teachers in unconventional ways, and they're still hoping the state pays them
Yeah.
for that. And it's like, well, if that's a case and get your ass to go vote, go vote. And it's so funny. And I've seen the Republicans down here get so upset when teachers unions are involved because I think Kamala spoke with a teachers union. Oh, that's interference. You can't do that. I don't know what the laws are, but it's okay to talk to big oil and big business and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
not teachers. There's
Yeah.
got to be. And Mike, you said it that there's going to be a fundamentally shift. And I just hope. I mean, I think it will happen nationally. I just hope it shifts some shit down here. I'm optimistic, like I said, and I'm doing what I can. I donate, but I mean, it's just I think it's going to be more Kamala doing it. I'd feel a little bit better if we had straight line voting like we used to, but the Republicans got rid of that because they knew that's where they were losing voters.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You go out there, and all I can say is do your homework, vote for, do your homework, donate to your local candidate, whatever, but do your homework. You know what I mean? If you don't feel like
Absolutely.
voting for one of them, they say blue no matter what. I mean, I don't really subscribe to that, but I think, especially in the election, I think you pretty much have to. And I think that's why you have the Cheneys coming over to the dark side.
Absolutely. Well, Jace, we're going to take a quick break. We got a lot more to talk about. We'll take a quick break and we will be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Jace from Texas is with us. We're talking about all kinds of stuff with Texas in the first half. I want to talk about what's imminent. I always, when I was a young man, I moved to Arizona, and when I quit, I had to drive back to Minnesota, and I couldn't fathom the whole idea of going Arizona to Minnesota. So I had to take milestones. okay, when do I get to Albuquerque? When do I get to Colorado Springs? When do I get to Omaha? And that's what I did. That's how I kept my mind straight. And it's kind of the same with what's going on in politics right now. There's always the next thing coming, whether it be a legal thing or now the next thing coming in about 4 days is this debate. And it's interesting how this is all played out. First, he was talking like he was going to bail. Then he said he wanted to do it. Then they argued about the rules. The rules have been established now. You're going to have the muted mics. There's going to be no audience. There's going to be no notes or anything like that. So it's pretty much the same thing as what CNN had when they had Joe and Donald Trump debating. And so it's imminent. It's coming up the 10th, which is 4 days away. It's next Tuesday. And there was some question in my mind as to whether or not Donald Trump would show up. I think he's definitely going to show up now. He really has no choice at this point.
I don't know, man. Trump never. There used to be a time when Trump would surprise me. Nothing that guy does now surprises me.
Yeah.
All that stuff that happened at Arlington, that doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, they went in there and did their thing, and then to blame the parent, to blame the families, that's just like him.
Well, then he ultimately said that never happened. It's a hoax.
Yeah, of course not. It's all fake news. I don't know, Mike. If he shows up, I'll be more surprised if he shows up than if he doesn't.
Well,
I don't believe a word out of that guy's mouth. It's like it's kind of like that whole. It's like calling a wolf like, oh, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. The wolf's coming, and when you don't, and you get so used to just the shit show. There was a memo that evidently was leaked about you can't talk to the press without permission.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen? Is he gonna like is he gonna fake a heart attack? I mean, I know you say that he won't do that because it makes him look weak.
Right.
But I hope he shows up because I think I think everybody pretty much agrees she's gonna wipe the floor with him.
Absolutely. And I think they know that too. But here's the thing. He started again saying, well, ABC's so terrible and it's the worst thing.
That's why I don't think he's gonna go.
That's what I thought too. But somebody came up with a better explanation of why he's doing that. And I kind of get it. It's almost too short for him to back out because if he does, he's going to look like a pussy ass bitch. And he does not want that. What somebody explained with him doing that, talking about how terrible ABC is, it isn't with the idea to get an excuse to not go. They called it a pre-buttal.
Yeah.
Knowing that he's going to get his ass whipped. And when it does happen, he has an excuse. See, I told you ABC was terrible. He's and he does this all the time, going into the election. Oh, it's already fixed before the election even happens because he knows he's going to lose. He's trying to set the tone for when the inevitability happens and he loses the debate and or the election, that he has an excuse. He's always got to have an excuse. And that kind of makes some sense to me now, because if he was going to bail the first time he started talking this shit, and maybe he was thinking about it at that point, I think he would have bailed. It's getting too close, and he can't do it without looking like a chicken. And that is far more concerning to him than getting his ass kicked. Because if he gets his ass kicked, he can just come out and say, no, I didn't. Because that's what Donald Trump does.
Well, that's what he did with Dana Bash. He was on their Truth Social saying, well, she has a chance to do the right thing. And then when Kamala killed it, he did that. I mean, he always, you're right. He does that. Yeah, you may be right about that, he's already making excuses to get, I mean, it's like, that's why he does the fake election thing. There's no way he could have lost, and there's no way he can lose to a black woman, and I think I think it would be better for her if he shows up and she wipes the floor with him.
Oh, absolutely.
Then I think he would save face actually if he didn't show up.
He would be better off.
But you're right. But he's a narcissist and he can't do that. he can't do that because it's like he proves it all the time. It's like, it's like another case in point. I'm wearing my America's team, Dallas Cowboys. I'm a diehard Cowboy fan, and Jerry Jones, he's just like Trump.
Right.
He had the money. He got a great coach, Jimmy Johnson, built the team when they were like 1-15, drafted Troy Aikman, drafted the greats.
Yeah.
He fired Jimmy Johnson right after his Super Bowl.
Right.
They had won back-to-back Super Bowls, pretty much.
Right.
And he fired him. And since 1996, back when I had hair and a little bit thinner, no glasses, not as much gray, he has been running that team because he knows what's best. And every year that goes by, and this year will be another one because Cowboys aren't going to do anything. I'm still a fan. I know who's drinking the Kool-Aid now, me.
Yeah.
But it's like I alone can fix it. It's that whole narcissist thing. Like he has all these people telling him to run on policy. He's trying to do that when he says, when he comes out and says IVF for all. That's his idea of policy, is making promises.
Right.
He's lost touch, just like Jerry Jones has.
Yeah.
He only thinks he can do it.
Well,
And
see,
it's just he can't.
when you're talking about Donald Trump or even
Jerry Jones.
They've always been wealthy and powerful in their own right, in their own little worlds and stuff. And it didn't matter if they were right or wrong. They could bowl their way through and blame it on somebody else when they were wrong and still look like the hero. Well, neither one of them are in a position to do that anymore because they're losing.
Yes.
Jerry Jones is losing, and he's the one that's responsible. He's big on taking credit, but he doesn't want to take the blame, but he's got nobody to blame. And same goes for Donald Trump. He's at a point now where he can't bullshit his way through because we've heard the bullshit for 10 years and we've watched him fail at every turn. So now he's confused. He doesn't it's the only strategy he knows. So he keeps doing it and he's pounding his head against the wall because people are hip to what he's doing now. I think people always knew what he was doing, but they were in a smaller little ecosystem where the people said, yeah, you're brilliant, Donnie. But now they're on bigger platforms, at least Donald Trump is, and the whole world, the whole country is seeing him, and people step out and say, you don't owe me, motherfucker, you're stupid. And that's what's troubling to him. He doesn't know what to do, and because his whole life has been about being the bully, he doesn't have any other options.
Yeah, I will say this about Donald Trump. He's not who he was in 16.
No, or 20.
I mean, he's not really, or 20. And I was watching every year. I watched The Godfather and 1 and 2 because they're my favorite movies. And there's a part where hopefully I don't spoil it for anybody. 52 years later,
if you haven't seen it, fuck you.
There's a part where the Marlon Brando played the dad, Vito, that he's out there and they meet with somebody and he's out there in the open getting some fruit. Well, they come by and try to shoot him.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that wanted him to get into drugs was telling him, says, do you think I could have got to him 10, 20 years ago? No.
Yeah.
He don't have it what he had before. And I think people are seeing that. Even the most diehard MAGA are seeing that because you have a lot of, you see them on TikTok and like y'all were talking last night about all the comments you get just on, I know a lot of them are for me, for you, Mike, but hey, I'm a big fan. And, but there is something going on there that, it's like the Eagles song, The New Kid in Town, everybody will love you until somebody new comes around. And Kamala's that new kid in town. Exactly. But she's not going to overstay her welcome. When she does her 8 years, because she'll probably win re-election, because if she keeps going on, I think you're right. Republicans are done after this election. And, and she's got the perfect one. But, it's like Trump regrets getting JD Vance. Hell, he said something the other day about there's some tape coming. There's somebody out there looking for tapes for him because they know he's another Dan Quayle, but to the extreme.
Yeah.
to where he says something about, well, school shootings are just the way of life. You tell that to the parents and
Yeah.
to the wife of that. You go to Uvalde and say that in front of that crowd. Well, that's just the way of life.
Yeah. It's crazy. I don't know if you heard the backstory on what happened with this thing in Georgia. I saw it when it happened, the shooting in Georgia. Um, it was in Winder, Georgia. Um, 4 people were murdered, 2 staff members, 2 students, at least 9 people were wounded. The shooter was a 14-year-old boy who attended that school. Now, the news that came out yesterday was some of it was expected and some of it was really unexpected. First of all, he used an AR-15. Not a big surprise. That's what they all use. That's the in vogue thing to use when you're doing mass shootings, the AR-15. But what's interesting about that story is that GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, I believe, visited this kid and his family at their house a year ago because there were some concerns about his violent behavior and his threats and all that sort of stuff. But there was not enough to arrest him at that point. So the GBI says to his parents, listen, make sure your guns are locked up. Do not let that kid near the guns. That's what they specifically told them. So anyway, this kid gets an AR-15 and everybody's wondering, how did he get an AR-15? Dad bought it for him as a present after that meeting. Okay.
Yep.
So now
it was after?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't know that.
And so he does this shooting and all this other stuff. And people are saying, we've seen it before with other shooters where parents are culpable or implicated in this situation. And people were wondering if this guy would be implicated. Now, there's all kinds of stories about mom has been involved in a lot of violent and drugs, arrests. Dad, I'm not sure what the situation is there. But Dad will have a record now because he was arrested yesterday. He was arrested and indicted, and I think arraigned for 4 counts of manslaughter, mistreatment of children, a few things. That motherfucker's going to go to jail a long time if he's convicted, and I would suspect he is. But the ironic thing about this is the representative in that particular district where that school is, a guy by the name of Mike Collins. He's got a 98% rating with the NRA and other, he's got a high rating with all the other gun lobbies and stuff. And the question is, what's a motherfucker going to do about that? Well, he's going to do nothing, just like they have every time. Every time something like this happens, they say, God, I hope they do
Thoughts
something.
Thoughts and prayers.
And not a fucking thing happens. And that's why I tell folks, if you're tired of school shootings, if you're tired about worrying about your kids going to school and risking their lives, if you're tired of that, the only option you have is to get rid of Republicans, get Democrats in there, and get reasonable restrictions on guns in this country. If you don't have,
you have a lot of you have Democrats too.
Yeah,
you have some Democrats too that have a high NRA. I mean, money's money, you know, and
absolutely.
I hate to say that, but I don't know. I've changed my mind on a lot of that stuff too about the banning of guns or whatever and stuff like that. And I was 14 years old, and your dad, like my dad, was a world-class a-hole.
Yeah.
But my dad would have never given me an AR-47 at 14. Hell, I'm 52. I wouldn't want one. I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And it's just like in the Republic, and the NRA used to be actually about background checks. They don't even want to discuss it. You bring up anything. I mean, the Democrats, they're accused of banning all this stuff. They just want to start with the discussion about this.
Right.
And you see schools and they're on lockdown with all this stuff. And what's the number one thing? Bulletproof glass. There is a reason why it's bulletproof glass.
Well,
I mean, it's
the first step of doing this is something we already had until the Republicans pulled the rug out.
Yeah.
And that's a ban on assault weapons. There's no reason to have an assault weapon if you are a hunter or even trying to protect your property. You don't need an assault weapon. And when that was in place, we saw less violence with assault weapons. You know, you're not going to end it completely, but it did have an impact, and that has to be done at some point. These people will fight to the deaths. Now, these politicians don't really care either way. It's just that the NRA cares, and they keep stuffing money in their pockets, and they'll do their bidding to keep that money flowing, and that has to stop. And, I've got a 4-year-old granddaughter who's going to school next year. I have a 12-year-old grandson that's in school. I don't think about somebody walking in with a gun in their school, but Jesus Christ, it happens everywhere, anywhere, at any time for no fucking apparent reason. And parents shouldn't have to struggle with that, and kids shouldn't have to go to that risk. And I heard somebody tell me a story that most kids who are in school are very well versed and well practiced in training what to do if there is a school shooter. Well, for
Yeah.
God, you know what? When I was a little kid, my mom would make me pray to go to sleep, and it would be the old prayer. It was that if I should die before I wake. And being a little kid, I go, "What? I'm going to die?" And so she
Yeah.
changed it to not say that. So that fucked with my head when I was a little kid. Can you imagine what it does to little kids going, "Hey, we got to keep you safe. So just in case there might be a shooter, we got to train you." Fuck that. That's ridiculous.
Well, Mike, you know me, I'm about 30 years younger than you, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, hell, I mean, I remember growing up and we never had that. And I was in like the late 70s, early 80s, 90s. I graduated in 91. We didn't have that kind of stuff. I mean, what we as a kid, what we worried about when you're a little kid and you're like an elementary kid. I mean, when I was a little kid, I worried about if the $6 million man was going to fight Sasquatch next week.
Right. Right.
I know I'm saying $6 million man. People are like, who?
Yeah.
Especially the millennials.
Yeah.
But there's kids that they're so prepared that it's like they should make people who are got these high NRA, they ought to go to a school, and
Right.
the ones they're trying to defund that are making the schools, especially down here in Texas, have all these protections but not giving them any extra funds to do so,
Right.
and talk to those kids about it. They like to go out, but there's no votes from that kid unless you're JD Vance and you only want the kids to give their parents a vote. Go talk to those little kids and what they do. These kids, I mean, they have to be smarter than we were.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck, when I was that age, I was eating glue. You know what I mean? I wasn't looking for an active shooter. These kids know because it's their way of life. And then you see somebody like David Hogg, who grows up with, was it Sandy Hook? Was it Sandy Hook he was involved in? So what do the Republicans do? They attack him.
Yeah.
He was just a kid.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's why your party's dying, is because
Yeah.
you're not listening to the children. Mom and dad going to vote Republican, but Junior, he may not necessarily vote Republican. You know why? Because he saw his kid or heard about a kid get slaughtered. I mean, it's like you're not going to have a base there because you're not listening to what the needs are.
Well,
And if anything,
you mentioned 20 million boomers that died, but there's also 40 million Gen Zs that have come to age and can vote. And
yeah,
that is a significant factor that the Republicans don't recognize. I do want to say something. You talked about eating glue. I'm a little older, so we ate paste.
okay.
And I just have to tell you, back in the day, the paste, they made it smell like spearmint or wintergreen or something like that. And I was eating paste one time, and the teacher said to me, "Mike, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you eating paste?" And I said, "But teacher, if they
Tastes
didn't
good.
want you to eat paste, why would they flavor the motherfucker?"
Well, I guess, Mike, you were one of those smart kids. I guess you were smarter than me.
No, I was a little dumb at that point.
I guess maybe I should have been like Lloyd Bridges in Airplane. I guess I picked the wrong rig with sniffing glue.
Right. And I will say that, over time I figured out that eating paste probably wasn't the best thing. I think I was about 19, and I
At
just
19,
quit cold turkey on paste.
did you go through with any withdrawals or anything?
No, no. But it was easier to go to the bathroom. I tell you that right
Yeah,
now.
right.
Once I quit it, it wasn't too bad. You know, I
It's like
want.
that bubble gum lie. Don't ever swallow it. You blow a bubble out your butt.
No, I was told it would stay in your stomach for 100 years. If that's
Oh
the
yeah,
case, I've swallowed a lot of gum, and when I die and they do the autopsy, they're
yeah.
going, "This dumb fucker did
Boom.
nothing but swallow gum."
Right.
I want to talk about Donald Trump's legal issues because there's a few things coming up. Yesterday, there was a hearing. It was kind of a lot of shit going on in it, and it didn't go well for Donald Trump. Uh,
Nope.
we know about the superseding indictments by Jack Smith, who did that as a workaround the immunity decision by the Supreme Court. Donald Trump, of course, pled not guilty. And then in this meeting, they're trying to set up how they're going to go through this process. And of course, Donald Trump's team said, "What's the hurry, man? Where's the fire? Just slow it down." And Judge Chutkin wasn't really having it. She said, "Well, we've been sitting on this motherfucker for a year. I don't think we're rushing here." And they said, "Yeah, but he's running for president." She basically said, "Don't give a fuck if he's running for president. That has nothing to do with this." So now what Trump's team is worried about is that not so much that the trial's going to start, because it probably won't start until after the election, which is fine. But Jack Smith is uh, ready to file an evidentiary brief. And that's what Donald Trump and his team don't want, because there's new evidence we've never heard. And whether you have the trial or not, that evidence gets exposed before the election. They're already scared. So, there's some shit in there.
Well, what I read is that, and this would be justice. It's like, it could be, Mike Pence could get, the Nobel Peace Prize if he
Yeah.
helps defeat Donald Trump, if his
Yeah.
testimony comes out, because they haven't heard all that stuff in front of January 6th.
Right.
And I'd vote. I would give it. I would vote for him to having the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah. What the hell?
Given that, and putting a final that, because a lot of people, Republicans, and it's not so much for me and you, but they respect Mike Pence. Mike Pence, and I know he gets a lot of shit, but he did the right thing. But it was just his job. It ain't like he was John McCain or nothing. In the Hanoi Hilton,
Well,
he did his job. He did what was right, and he almost lost his life for it.
think about this. Do we really want to reward people in politics for simply doing their job and having a shred
Nope.
of integrity? He had no option. He had to
Nope.
do it.
He
There
tried.
Yeah, he tried.
He tried to find out if he didn't. And you know who told him to buck up and do your job? Dan Quayle.
Yeah.
Dan Quayle did, but I would just think it would be funny if the one person but Trump called a pussy, and I don't agree with Trump much, but he was right about that.
Yeah.
That pussy actually grabbed him and brought him down for once.
If he did,
because a lot of people, evangelicals, they like a Mike Pence, and if they hear Mike Pence talking about the shit he did,
yeah.
I mean, he's already losing voters. It may be even more.
Right.
Mike Pence Max, and there's a bunch of shit we don't even know about. I read that there's shit that we even know about. And then when you have the media going in there, they're not going to be able to defend Trump on this, because this is somebody's word, and we're like, as you say, we're getting down to nut cutting time in the election. Yeah, they want to open up an investigation about Wallace and the COVID money or whatever that they've known about. They want to do this shit because the Biden. There's still people that want to impeach Biden.
Yeah.
Let them do it, but it's the.
Uh-oh. Let's see if we got Jace. He stalled here. He's in.
Can you see me now?
I can see you now. You stopped there. I don't know if it was.
I think I was going on. I was getting a Will moment. I was going off on a tangent, man. You got me talking and stuff like that, because I want to hear Andrew Weissman, what he has to say about this stuff, and they start dissecting this stuff. It's lights out even more. It's gonna even put even more dirt. It's gonna end Trumpism. I mean, and the Supreme Court may be the one who actually fucked this up, because they could have done this a while back, but they've been sitting on this, getting closer to the election, thinking they would run the table. Chutkin ain't fucking around.
Well, I think as we get closer to the election, people in the Supreme Court, Republicans, they're seeing the writing on the wall. Donald Trump cannot win. Lindsey Graham said that. He can't win. And I agree with them all. He can't win. There's too many things going against him, and he's going up against the hottest presidential candidate we've ever seen. So it's not hard to figure out. I could have figured this out. I did figure this out 2 years ago, at least, when he jumped in. But these Republicans are still standing by him, and I don't know what they're afraid of, because if you could say anything about the Republican Party, they are fucking absolute cowards. And and when this is all done and Donald Trump goes down, and he will go down, you have to wonder what these people who stood by him to the very end, what are they going to say to save their lives or careers? Mike Pence, if he testifies against Donald Trump and Donald Trump goes down, that may give him a smidgen of a chance to still have a career. But right now,
Yeah,
Mike
good.
Pence ain't going anywhere.
No, and I think Lindsey Graham, he said that years ago, that before he became Trump's, lapdog. No offense to lapdogs everywhere, I love them, but the thing he said, that if we elect Trump, we get what we deserve.
Yeah.
That's something that John McCain would have said. But
Yeah.
John McCain's Lindsey Graham's conscience died when John McCain died. I mean, he didn't have none. But he has worked in the Senate. He's worked with Kamala. He knows she's sharp, and he
Yeah.
knows, like as you put it, she can be, kind of laughing and dancing, but she can be a cold-hearted, which is called her a cold-hearted bitch. You
Yeah.
have to be dealing with those pit of vipers in the Senate.
Well, I think
He's seen it firsthand. He knows what a badass she is.
she's a perfect balance as a politician, really. And I'll say this too. Back in 2019, when she was running and she didn't get the support she needed, we were in a different world. I really liked Kamala back then. I wasn't a big Biden fan because I felt like you did. He was too old. Now, of course, when Biden became president, I've been impressed by how productive
Same
and
here.
prolific he is, and I give him all the respect in the world. But I like Kamala back then because she was smart, she could talk, and she had some fight in her. What I've said this before to other people, what surprised me about this, well, first of all, people would always say, well, I don't know if the country's ready for a woman or a black woman president. Now that we've gotten where we've gotten and we're in such tough shape and we need somebody to be our champion, I don't care. I don't think the color or gender has anything to fucking do with it now. She's the exact person we need. And I'm amazed by the fact that she can be tough and nail people, and people aren't saying, oh, there's an angry black woman. They still want to hug her. She's been able to balance that somehow, and that's pretty amazing. And I think that just shows we're on a path now. We can't be diverted. It's going to go the way it goes, and it's not going to go well for Donald.
And I know, and I hear you, Mike, you're always talking about the boomers and millennials. Well, there's another generation in the middle right there that I'm part of, and Kamala and Tim are a part of.
Yeah.
It's called Generation X. We're going to have our first Generation X I was thinking that Obama was Generation X, but he's boomer. He's like you.
Now,
He's
wait
like
a minute. Now, wait a minute. Now, wait a minute.
Obama wasn't a boomer or a Gen X.
No, and frankly, Kamala is technically a boomer.
No, 59. Yeah. She's still Gen X.
She was born in 64. 46 to 64 is boomer. She's 4 years younger than I am. No, she's not Gen X.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go vote for Donald Trump then. Yeah, right.
Yeah, but
Mike, thanks for taking away my mojo, man. I had my will moment coming up, man.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. I'm a boomer. I was born in 1960. I'm right on the cusp. She's even more on the cusp. I think people who are boomers at this stage have kind of a mix of Gen X and boomer. Maybe that's why some people relate. Because I don't think like a boomer that was born in 46. My folks were born in 40. So, and I was born in 60. So I'm technically a boomer. And then everybody says, no, you're Jen Jones. It's a fucking made up thing that somebody stuck in between there. I don't care what it is. I was born in 60. She was 64. Technically, it's 46 to 64. Technically, she's a boomer, but she could be a Gen X. I don't know if it breaks down to months or whatever. I don't care. She's going to kick Donald Trump's ass anyway.
Well, if she's a boomer, then Gen X has got neglected again. That's all I can say. We were neglected as child. We were raised on neglect and hose water. I got a shirt that says that. But
I,
the thing about Kamala, and I think she's so relatable to people because she can have that thing with Kavanaugh and Bill Barr, where she's all business.
yeah,
But there, I don't know if you've seen it. I've seen it on I've seen it on Threads, which I use instead of Twitter now. There's a part where she's sitting. It, Schumer's talking. I'll have to send it to you if I find it. Schumer's talking, and she's there with this other guy. I think it's representative, the one that's kind of going after the Justice Clarence Thomas, looking at is it White House or something?
White House.
It's another senator there, and they're sitting there, and Schumer's talking. Of course, Schumer's got his glasses down, all business, Schumer, and she's kind of messing, with his lapel or something, kind of straightening up his tie, and just Schumer just looks back at them and like points, and you see her, and you see Kamala, like, excuse fuck out of me. I mean, and you see that, and that's what other people see. She's relatable.
Yeah.
You got this guy down in Mar-a-Lago. It's just like, I don't know if he's fired the guy that did his makeup, but man, he's looked even worse than normal. He looked like two pepperonis away from a extra pepperoni cheese and pizza.
Yeah.
I mean, it was bad. And it's like the outline, it's like the tan lines. And this is a guy that, rags on other people's appearance. I mean, if Joe Biden came out looking like I think I saw a picture where they put like Joe Biden in the same makeup. Can you imagine if Biden came out looking like this? Who would be the first one to bitch about it? Trump.
Yeah.
But the guy is evidently, he doesn't sleep to begin with. He's not healthy. I mean, you mentioned something about him having heart problems. I hadn't heard that before. I didn't know the guy had a heart.
Yeah.
But just, but his parents lived a long age, so he'll probably live a long age. And I hope he does, because I hope he sits there and after this election, because he won't be able to raise, he'll be able to raise money, but there won't be as much behind it.
No.
And he'll have to face his thing. And even if it's his face, what he did, he needs to be held accountable because he's never been held accountable. And it's time to start holding these other Republicans accountable too. I mean, every bill comes through. Nobody gets a ride for free forever. And and it's good. I mean, we're starting to see, I don't like watching anybody go down, but it doesn't break my heart, so to speak. Yeah. I don't, but there's a song by Don Henley. It's called Dirty Laundry.
Yeah.
Kick you up, kick you when you're down. I mean, I know I referenced the Eagles and Don Henley in one podcast, and like, damn, are you sure you're not a boomer? But it's everybody, and it comes. It's like Johnny Cash song, another one. The man comes around. I mean, it's just there. It comes for everybody, man, and he can have all the money he wants, but he's gonna, and hope he gets his judgment in this life.
Yeah, I think he will. I'm surprised because I've always said I don't know that he makes it to November, because that much pressure hanging over somebody's head is going to crush a 35-year-old man, let alone a mentally ill 78-year-old man. But maybe Donald Trump's delusional enough to think that he's actually going to win. Maybe he's convinced himself that he believes he's going to win, because I got to tell you, he's putting all his hopes into winning the election. And if he could see it like we would, he wouldn't be having any hopes at all. But he believes at the last minute he'll pull it out somehow.
Well, that's what that group does, Mike. The MAGA group and the Republican thing, they think, and it's been before Trump. Remember in 2012 when Romney was supposed to going to win all this stuff? I mean, he was going to win so close. I remember that happening, and I remember I was drinking the Kool-Aid too. It was like, well, Obama, I mean, he wasn't that popular. Yeah. He wasn't that popular and after that first term, because he did a lot of, shit, I think, with the Affordable Care Plan and, all that stuff. And it's like he said at the RNC, well, they don't call it Obamacare no more because people like it.
Yeah.
And but there was something that that I remember I was watching Fox, and I remember thinking, because this is what Fox told me. This is what they're doing now. They're telling people that, Romney's going to win. Romney's going to win, but they didn't count for those, those voters that showed up. A lot of them, voted for Obama.
Right.
And I think Kamala is bigger than Obama was,
I do
because
too.
nothing against Obama, but he doesn't have the, I don't think he has that generation, that a lot of those people that consider Obama to be the greatest president in their lifetime, because I've heard them say that
Yeah.
to me, and I go, "Did you vote for?" I wasn't old enough to vote. They want to vote now because they want to be part of history. And you're right. You said something about, well, people don't want to fucking vote for a loser. I
Yeah.
mean, who looks like the biggest loser right now?
Right.
And it's like the media doesn't even bring up the 34 felonies. I mean, it's
No.
like, and one of his campaign people said, "Well, Trump thinks that all convicted felons should be in jail." Okay, I agree with you then.
Well, here's the thing, and we're getting closer to the end, and since you brought up the 34 felonies, the next milestone after the debate, of course, is the scheduled sentencing for the Manhattan District hush money case. That's scheduled for September 18th. That was moved from July. And assuming it happens, that was the dumbest move that Donald Trump ever made. He should have
Yeah.
got the sentencing in July so we'd all been over it. Now it's coming in September if it comes, and it's going to be fresh on people's mind come November 5th. So you were talking about something about a decision as to whether they're going to do the sentencing on September 18th. It was supposed to come yesterday, and now you think it's coming Friday. I'm not familiar with that at all. So tell us
Yeah,
whatever you know.
I just read something. I mean, like I was telling you, that this shit just goes by so fast that
Yeah.
I guess they're asking the judge to reconsider. I think they were trying to get them thrown out or delayed, but I think they said something to ask them about a decision, and I guess it was moved something. I haven't read the whole thing, but they're trying, and they've been trying to get them to reconsider postponing the sentencing. So I
Right.
haven't I haven't been able to see too much for it, because have you noticed though that in some media, even kind of like, like Raw Story, or ones that aren't necessarily, they got kind of both sides, especially with like Mediate, that there's a story on there and they don't retract it, they just delete it. Have you noticed
Right.
that
Yeah.
like a story will come out and, "Oh, we're sorry, we put this out there." They don't do that anymore. They just delete it. And that's another problem with corporate media. You need to own up to your mistakes.
Well, it'll be interesting to see whether or not they say that that they want to delay the hearing. They want to delay it or the sentencing. They want to delay it because they want to do it after the election, like they think that's going to do them some good, and
Yeah,
it's
ain't good.
not.
Yeah.
It's not going to do them any good. We know that Judge Chutkin said, "I don't give a fuck about the election. This has nothing to do with that." Now, Judge Juan Marchand is the one that's going to do the sentencing. And he's got to be a little owly at this point with Donald
Oh
Trump,
yeah.
especially
Going after
all
his
the shit,
daughter.
all the all the shit he said, and now he's got Jim Jordan sending a subpoena. I got to be honest with you. If I'm going to be sentenced by a judge, last thing I want to do is piss that motherfucker off and go against his orders. But that's
I'm gonna be
exactly what
kissing
Donald
ass.
Trump did. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
But Donald Trump is so arrogant and so stupid. He's putting this guy in a corner. Even if he doesn't get sentenced on September 18th, he's going to get sentenced, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
not going to go well for him. And if it happens after the election, it's going to be worse than if it happens now.
I think okay. I think what Trump has successfully done and what the media has successfully done, or he's successfully, and it's not the truth though. In public, I think he not to people who are paying attention, but the media doesn't cover those convictions,
Right.
you know. But they still, Republicans like to say they're tough on crime, but they're running a convicted felon, and they've done a good job of not making that center point. I mean, Kamala brings it up, Biden brought it up, but they think they've beat this, a lot of them, and it's no big deal, because I've seen MAGA, respond. They'll go after all these criminals, and they'll call, they call Waltz a pedophile and all that crap. It's like these lies that they just put out there,
Yeah.
but the fucking truth is in their face. These felonies, they may not matter to MAGA, but I guarantee you they matter to Trump. And he may not admit it, and he may be too narcissistic to think he beat this. But it's like you said, they can delay it all you want. I mean, he's still a convicted felon. And it wasn't a witch hunt. It wasn't the Democrats doing it. It was American people doing it.
Well, and
two of them were Trumpers.
I think going into this election, the key was the convictions. I wasn't as worried about the sentencing as I was the convictions. Those convictions are there. They are real, and he will be sentenced. That's just the way it works. Now, whether it's on September 18th or November 25th or December 1st, doesn't really matter. He's going to get sentenced, and there will be some kind of punishment. And I will tell you this, if it goes past the election, that punishment will be vastly worse for him after the election, because he can't say, well, I got to do this and I got to do this. No, you're fucking nobody now. You're another loser in an election. You're a private citizen, maybe a former president, but you got no place to go. We're locking your shit down.
I got a question for you, Mike. I know we're probably getting close to the end of it, but
that's fine.
What do you think in Kamala's cabinet? I know we're getting kind of ahead of ourselves. It's kind of nice to talk about normalcy and like what happens and what she's going to do with, like you and Eric were talking about that. You're like, God damn, they almost kind of talk like, what's going to happen after all this shit's over.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest, I don't know. I mean, Kamala kept a lot of Joe Biden's like running like campaign, and that's just a temporary job anyway, But I'm interested to see what she does with her cabinet. I know she's going to probably keep Pete.
Yeah, got her.
Or move somewhere else. But man, she's got to do something about Garland, dude. And
Garland's got to go. He's just.
And I used to think he'd make a great Supreme Court, but his inaction, man, I don't think he would make a good one. He could be one of those Supreme Court. Well, I don't know. I don't want to piss anybody off.
In the Supreme Court, he'd be like Joe Manchin in the Senate, I feel.
Yeah.
He's still got that too much conservative side. He doesn't have the courage to do what he needs to do. He may be a nice guy, a great jurist, all that shit, but he hasn't done the job. One of the reasons we're in this fucking mess leading up to the election is because of him.
Totally.
If he had not sat on his thumb for fucking 2 years, we would have had this already done, and we wouldn't have Donald Trump to deal with. So, yeah, I have a big problem with him, and there are plenty of other better possibilities for Attorney General. Ed keeps suggesting Amy Klobuchar. I think that would be good. Jamie Raskin.
She's not in the Senate now, is she? Isn't she out?
No, she's in the Senate. She's running.
She still is?
She's running against a guy by the name of Royce White, who used to be a Minnesota Gopher basketball player. And he was in the pros for a time, but he's a pussy-ass bitch, and he got too scared of flying, and he got hurt and some other shit. But this is the guy that went on talk shows, and he's a black guy, but he's a MAGA guy. And somebody, he basically said that women are too lippy these days. It's not going to go well. It's not going to go well in Minnesota. He doesn't have a prayer to get elected, especially if he's running against Amy Klobuchar. It's just absolutely fucking silly. I don't even know why. That's the one thing that's going to help the Democrats too, is because we've got all these endorsees by Donald Trump, and Democrats love the endorsees by Donald Trump because they're usually radical or extreme, and they always lose, as we've seen. So our down ballot prospects may be better than I think a lot of people expect.
Yeah, I think that too. I keep hearing all these people, bitch about Georgia, and even Pennsylvania. She may not need Georgia or Pennsylvania.
No,
it'd be nice, but Trump's evidently pulling out of like Michigan, New Hampshire, because he can focus on Georgia and Pennsylvania, and also Minnesota too.
Well, he's never going to win Minnesota.
Well, hell, he thought he was going to win California. Did you see those Trump fucks like? Can you imagine if he wins California? It's like, yeah, that'd be a great prize, but it ain't going to fucking happen.
No. Well,
but for Ohio and Texas and Florida to be in, like, even considered.
Yeah.
Because I think Texas, we're probably the reddest because people don't vote down here. But, I mean, but if Paxton's trying to get new hires from not voting. That might be something he knows that I don't.
Yeah. And, honestly, if Donald Trump loses Florida and Texas, nothing else matters. He's
But
lost.
even Florida by itself,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a
he's going to
distinct
win. He's going
possibility.
to win. She's going to win Pennsylvania, I think, and I think she's going to win Georgia. I just think it's going to be like you say. It's just going to be bigger, and I just think that. I mean, it's. I mean, I don't know. She did a home run with when I hear more about Waltz, and saying, well, he doesn't have a lot of money in his 401k and all that stuff. It's like, damn, I identify great with that guy, and I'm about his age.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
exactly.
like, oh, he lives in one house. He has one house. It's like that bastard, and and and
He
but
doesn't have
just
he doesn't have a house.
he doesn't have a house.
When he was elected governor and moved into the governor's mansion,
Oh,
he
that's
sold his
right.
he sold
That
his
was the
house.
yeah. That's right. That's smart.
He's got he's got an old like Bronco or Scout truck from the 70s that's been renovated. That's what he drives.
Yeah,
He didn't have a lot of money because he's not doing it for the money.
yeah.
It'd be nice if we found more politicians that would do it less for the money and
Well,
do it for the good of the people.
he's a typical teacher because he's given it. He's had years of service. I mean, it's like Joe Biden. You know what I mean? That's one of the things about the Bidens that they always tried to pin on them. Well, they didn't have a lot of money, so they were going to take money from Chinese and stuff. So it's like it's just
Well, where is that money? Because
yeah,
it's
I
not in
know.
his bank account. It's not in
No,
his properties. It's
I guess
absolutely
I get
ridiculous.
maybe I've been banking at Chase. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe Jim Jordan can open an investigation into Biden had a checking account at Chase. News at 10.
yeah. We had a woman on the show a long time ago who's running against Jim Jordan in Ohio. I don't know what
Yeah,
kind of
it's a good show. I heard.
she seemed kind of confident at the time. I don't know what her chances are, but it would be so beautiful if Jim Jordan lost his race and Marjorie Taylor Greene lost his race and Ted Cruz lost. All that shit would be just absolutely wonderful. I will on the day after the election, if we get those kinds of losses, I'm just going to do TikTok after TikTok of me laughing. That's all I'm going to do. Just fucking laugh because these dipshits deserve it.
Rick Wilson had a guest on. She was I think a house from Florida, and he's from Florida, and he was talking about like he didn't even live. Lives like he didn't even live by the ocean,
Right.
but he said his insurance like quadrupled.
Yeah, it's crazy down in
And he was
Florida.
saying, well, Rick Scott doesn't have, Rick Scott's going to win. And I'm like, well, don't be so surprised if Florida's such a clusterfuck. And what people don't realize, people think that Florida is just like MAGA red state. Obama won it twice.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not like Texas like 30 years. That's why I have more faith in Florida. I do Texas because and you have, and like I said, I think it's going to come down to those. A lot of Republicans are either going to vote for Kama or they're going to stay home,
Right.
and you don't really have that in the Democrat. You have the Democrats, yeah, you have them, kind of fighting about a few things, but I was optimistic. I knew that Joe would win, but I mean, because you look at him now and he's back to the same old Joe, but I think Trump, like in 2016, he met the perfect person he could beat, and that was Hillary, because they had
Right.
victimized her so much.
Right.
Now
Right.
you've had the last two elections, you've had the one person that could beat him, and that was Biden back in
Right.
20.
Right.
And now you're going to have the woman that's a prosecutor that's going to put him down. And
Permanently.
yeah, from a Republican, she's going to end the Republican Party. But I'm optimistic, and it borders on, I don't want to say conceit, more like confidence. But I wake up in the morning and I don't worry as
Yeah.
much because I people are worried about what happens after the election, the Civil War. I mean, how many times have we heard that? You want to go fight the U.S. Army, go ahead, because we're actually in charge now. You had your shot in 2020,
Yeah.
and a
You
lot of your
blew it.
brethren are in prison.
I just for the record, I know a lot of people are positive and confident now. I was confident 2 years ago.
You were.
I could see how it was going, And I'm not one of these people that make predictions per se, but I get a sense about the way things are going. And I know polls aren't worth a shit. And I know how past elections, and I'm fucking old, so I've seen a lot. So I've seen things happen that you don't expect. The media doesn't always isn't our friend, and they aren't telling us what's really true or what we really need to know. And I do feel confident, and I'm not worried about being overconfident. It just looks like everything is against Donald Trump and everything is for Kamala Harris, and it's a mismatch. You've got the most popular candidate ever against the least popular candidate ever. It's not any harder than that. How do you break that down? I mean, it's like Mike Tyson fighting Paulie Shore. Who's going to win that fucker? You can talk shit
I
about it all you want, but Mike Tyson's going to kick his ass.
Okay, are you talking Pauly Shore circa 1994 or no? The thing about
In his more athletic days.
yeah, right. The thing about Trump is that he may actually have a running mate that's actually more hated than he is. I mean, people
Yeah.
don't like JD Vance.
No.
And it's like, and that's like the one person that he endorsed that won, and it's and that thing, because that's how I found you, because I was all this shit about the red wave, and even left wing like MSNBC was saying that.
Yeah.
And here I get, and I tell you what, I ran across you on there, and you always say people, they look at me and they look MAGA. Well, I look at you, I look at me, and I look at Eric. I mean, we could be like poster child for MAGA the way we look, but the way we
Absolutely.
talk, it's like, what the fuck is wrong with this picture? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like down here, you get a lot of the Spanish stations, and down at my dad's, they had like they get the channels from Mexico, like deep into Mexico, and the people down there, like the on TV, they're about as white as we are.
Yeah.
Because they're from Spain and stuff like that. So that's probably what they see. Well, how's that white person talking Spanish? That's what they see. How are those three guys talking liberalism or libtard talk or whatever?
Well,
So it's
and they probably look at Eric and Jace and me and Ed for that. Well, not Ed so much. Ed looks like a professor, but they look at us
Ed's
and
got
they
a full
go,
head. Ed's got a hair. Doesn't he have like a lot of hair?
he's got a little hair, yeah. But the thing is, they look at us and they go, it can't be one of us. Those fuckers are articulate. They're smart. They don't fit in our group at all. I think that's part of it. I think when I run against Trumplafucks and they see me, they get a sense that it's one of our own. And then when we start talking, they're going, "What the fuck? I'm confused. I don't get it. This is not right. Is this is this guy cosplaying some shit or what? I don't
Well,
know."
it happens to me all the time down here because I'm in. Well, San Antonio's not really. San Antonio's really blue. Paxton knows that, so that's why he comes. Pays us a visit. And but yeah, you look at me, I got the shaved head, I got the goatee. Yeah, man, if shit, man. I mean, I was looking at our camera, and it's like, I used to say my uncle, he looked like out of that guy Dave Ramsey. You ever seen him?
Oh yeah.
With the another but shaved head and a goatee. And I tell my uncle, who's about 15 years older than me, I was like, man, you look like Dave Ramsey. I was looking at myself, hell, I look like Dave Ramsey. Got the
Yeah.
shaved head and all the gray. I
Yeah.
don't think like the guy though. So
Oh, that fucker's a goof too. Don't listen to Dave Ramsey. He's full of
no,
shit.
sir.
All right. Well, Jace, we're going to wrap things up. Thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it. We've been on a long string of guests, and thank you for coming on and continuing that string. We all
Well,
got
Mike,
different
I
perspectives.
appreciate it. Hopefully, you'll do a couple episodes. I see that pile of emails behind you there, so you need
Yeah.
to get to those, I guess, next show.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have anybody lined up tomorrow, so I probably will have to do the emails, and then I'm going to have to fucking work. So I love the guest because I don't have to work so hard, and I'm a lazy bastard. So, yeah, I'll probably have to work tomorrow. So I probably should go to bed because I'm going to need my typical 20 hours of sleep to be able to do that. Well, Jace, thanks very much. I appreciate it. For
Thanks for having me.
for those listening, thank you for taking the time out of your day. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.